What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is the Blacklist, Season 3, Episode 23, the finale, Alexander Kirk, the conclusion. I knew it! I called it! If you go back and watch my review, it's actually my most watched review at this point, which is freaking crazy. It's like almost 3,000. Unbelievable. Anyway, I knew it! I called it! I called it! I called it! Knew she was not dead. So for me, it was the least surprising surprise of all time. But anyway, this was a fairly good episode. We had a lot of really moral questions posed in this one. As far as Harold Cooper, as far as Donald Ressler, as far as Reddington, Mr. Kaplan, there's so much to really focus on that I'm going to have to compartmentalize, or else I'm going to get lost. So, first off, I'm going to talk about Ressler, because it's interesting to see that he was the one during the entire Liz chase. He was the one that always seemed like he was the most driven to catch her, and out of the entire team, he was the one that really actually wanted to see her brought to justice. Even if it was not as quite as hard justice as some people may have wanted. He knew Tom Connolly was a part of the cabal, but the fact that she just straight up killed him, I think, really got to him and really made him think, I've got to stop her. I can't just let her get away with this. So to see him at the end up choosing to let Reddington shoot Alexander Kirk, he lets him do it, even though he wasn't able to. It kind of shows that, yeah, that's how much Liz's death affected him. He still wants to do the right thing, but he also has a very strong sense of justice. And for him, this feels like it's a bit of justice, I think. So it's really interesting to see how far his morals have been stretched by Liz's death now. So yeah, that was interesting. Harold Cooper has a speech with Samar about when he brought the task force together and what they were doing back then. And yeah, it does feel a lot different than the first season. I think I've talked about before how I love the first season. The first season was amazing. It's what really got me into the show. And the show has changed a lot since then. There's a lot different now, obviously, with Tom, with even how Reddington interacts with the task force. And the first season was a lot of mystery. He didn't trust them at all. Now he's just doing all of his stuff pretty much right under their noses, and they know about it. But he's just like, this is for the best. This is for Liz. We have to do this for Liz. And they're just like, okay. And hearing Harold talk about it, it really felt like a callback to the first season of, back when this all started. I felt like we needed to stop acts like this. And now I'm just allowing it to happen. I wonder if that's going to be a big change in Season 4, if we're going to return to sort of a more... I don't even know the right word. I don't want to say justified, or... I don't know what the right word for it is, but a more lawful task force. Because in the first season, obviously, they were breaking some laws by working with Reddington, but they were all trying to abide by the law. They were all trying to do right by the law. Even if it meant we had to work with a criminal to capture these bad guys. These guys are just as bad. We need to make sure we get them, even if it means working with him. Now it just feels like we need to work with him and just let him do whatever he wants. So I wonder if that's going to change a bit in the next season. So that was Harold. The Rom didn't really get touched on that much. Shamar, a little bit of a conversation with Harold. When he's talking about, I can't believe I'm allowing these things, she discusses the fact that she's had to do this stuff before, working for Mossad most likely. So, yeah, it kind of, a little bit of a comparison there, I like that. We get to see Reddington really, he's much more calm in this one, and we do get to see a lot more of him being Reddington in this one, because it felt like over the past few episodes he's been a bit shaken by Liz's death. Now he really feels like Reddington again. It feels like he's just he's on a path and he is going to complete that path no matter what. Um, of course, obviously, really thrown by Mr. Kaplan's involvement with all of that stuff, but before all of that happens, you just see this sense of determination about him. Even whenever Ressler's about to shoot the guy in the back of the head, holding the gun, and then he takes off his jacket after he tells the guy to leave him, just like he's gonna grab the gun himself. And sure enough, he's getting ready to do it, and just talking to Ressler, just his tone of voice, even in a situation like that where Ressler could just easily shoot him right now. He's just so calm and collected about it, and he's just talking to him in a very smooth tone, just like, I know your sense of justice has been compromised, and just all of this stuff. It was a very good scene, and kind of felt like Reddington is back to where he's supposed to be. So on to Tom and Mr. Kaplan. We do get to see Tom obviously escaping in this one, and I love the scene at the end inside of the house whenever he's fighting with the guy. It kind of reminds me that this show used to do action very well. We have not gotten that type of action in so long. We've had gunfights, we've had, a lot of explosions. I want to see more fist fights. This show did some really good fist fights in the first season. We have not seen up close and personal like that in so long that to see it, I was just like, oh, this is intense. Like, it's been so long since we've had that type of action. I want to see more of that. I want to see more close quarters, hand-to-hand combat. Less of the, okay, let's just grab an army, grab a bunch of guns, and just kill everybody. So maybe that will change as well. Maybe we'll get, with Tom becoming more desperate, maybe we'll get a lot more of that up close and personal combat. And Mr. Kaplan, just throughout the entire end, you could see not only the fear in her eyes, because obviously she was afraid of what Reddington was going to do to her, and ultimately, even at the very end, I'm still not entirely sure if he's going to kill her or not. But beyond the fear, she also just had this sense of sadness, like, now that Reddington knows that Liz is alive and where Liz, Tom, and Agnes are, you almost just get this sense of sadness from her that now they are a part of his life. Now they are officially, he's involved with them again. And that was exactly what she was trying to avoid. But unfortunately for her, Alexander Kirk is smarter than she gave him credit for. But on to Liz and the plan in general. I like the fact that Mr. Kaplan was involved, because it was discussed what if this was all Elizabeth's plan to just get away from Red. I heard that theory thrown out there. I heard a lot of theories whenever I did the review on that one where we all thought she died. I heard a lot of theories. I read a lot of theories of what could have actually happened. I like the fact that Kaplan was involved, because it really feels like that's the only way. If it was Liz trying to get away from Reddington, Kaplan's the only one who could really possibly do that. Because she is the best as far as making people disappear. We've seen her do it before. We've seen her disappear dead bodies before and completely clean a crime scene before. So, yeah, it was nice to see that there really was a good plan in place set by Mr. Kaplan, who could do all of this on her own. And ultimately, even though sometimes I notice stuff like this. Sometimes I'm just sitting there watching a show, and Reddington's talking to her like how. She's like, the how won't change anything. All that matters is that it happened. I'm just like, yeah, but the how is going to explain to us, the audience, how it's going to happen, so most likely you're about to tell us anyway. I don't know why I do that in my mind, but for some reason that's exactly what I thought, and sure enough, the very next second she starts explaining the whole plan. Just like, okay. But yeah, she was involved, the doctor was involved, which I figured he had to have been. It involved making it look like she was dead and then taking her body away. It took a bit of chance, because I think she had a plan in place for if he wanted her to go to the morgue. But what ended up happening was Reddington didn't want her taken to the morgue, so that ended up working in their favor and making the plan even easier. I love that little touch, the little nuances that just really add weight to the fact that this is all possible. So yeah, little things like that were really good. And just the entire plan in general really worked out very well. And you could see where it all happened. You could see how it all worked. It was very well laid plan, very well written. So it was good. However, the ending maybe was a little bit predictable. I figured I don't know. I didn't know that Alexander Kirk was Liz's father. I'm not going to sit here and claim, oh, I knew it from the moment he was the one that I knew it had to be her dad. I wasn't entirely sure. It was one of the theories that popped into my head. It was one of many theories. The one that was sort of leading the charge in my head, though, was that Alexander Kirk was working for either Liz's dad or her mom. Um, and ultimately finding out that he is her father just sort of adds a more personal touch to it instead of, oh, he's just the hand that is being guided by the body. It does add a lot of weight to it, and the fact that you know now we know, it means that Reddington likely knows as well, which means this entire time it's all been him trying to keep her dad from trying to get to her. And I'm very curious to find out how that knowledge sort of affects everybody else, knowing that after all this time, it's been Liz's dad, and the fact that Reddington knew that. Um, so yeah, I don't know. It's very curious. The fact that they actually succeed really surprises me because since season one, things have really worked in Reddington's favor. Like things have always really worked out for him. Even when it seems like everything's going wrong, the very next episode, things are good. This is the first time he's actually been beaten, and ultimately it has to do with Kaplan's betrayal. Her getting Liz out of there, getting Tom and Agnes out of his sight, out of his reach. That's ultimately why he ends up losing. But this is the first in this show. Like most of the time, if things are going wrong, they get fixed very quickly. This is not something that's going to get fixed very quickly. She is in who knows where, being held by her father, which means that I'm sure the whole reason Reddington wanted to kill Alexander Kirk this entire time was to make sure Liz didn't find out that's who her dad was. Like from the very beginning, it seemed like he wanted to kill him. And now it was almost like, obviously it was for Liz now, but the fact that she now knows this is her father can really do a lot of damage to her, possibly. I don't know what's going to happen. It's very well set up for a fourth season, and it's a finale that really works well because it feels like it's fitting into the plot. It's not, we solved the problem with Alexander Kirk, now here's something that's going to leave you hanging for the fourth season. This is, things didn't get solved with Alexander Kirk. Things actually went from bad to worse, and now we've got a great setup for the next season. So I love how it ended. Pretty good twist, not the best twist, but it was a good one. And final thoughts on the season. I really enjoyed this season. In my opinion, still nothing compares to season one. Season one was amazing. It's hard to think of another season that could possibly top what season one did because it was just so unique and special. And now it feels like the show's sort of going through the motions at times. But the first half of this season was really good. The whole Liz and Red on the run from the task force themselves, Ressler working so hard to try to get to her, what are the moral dilemmas involved? Samar helps them out. Now she's kicked off the team. Little stuff like that just really worked well for the show, and there's a lot of emotion driven in it. And then the second half kicked off. We had a lot of the speed taken out of it. It was a lot slower. We slowed down for more personal moments. Liz and Tom and their baby were focused on a lot. And it just, I don't know, it felt a lot different. It felt like the major plot sort of took a back seat for a second. And then ultimately the wedding happened, and that's where things really got kicked off again. We ended on a very high note, in my opinion. A lot of action, a lot of, who's this guy? We have to get to Alexander Kirk. We have to set this plan in place to stop him. So it did end very well, even if there was a bit of a slower part in the middle. But overall, I would say this has been a very successful season. Better than season 2, because I had a lot of problems with season 2. Maybe I'll talk about that sometime. Who knows? But it's a good season. It sets up very well at the end for season 4. That's all that I really can ask. It's maybe slightly better than the average that I can ask of a show, but as long as they're giving me that, I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna watch it next season, find out where they're going with this, find out more about Liz's dad, find out what Reddington's going to do next. And yeah, it's a great setup. Excited to see where it's going. So those are my thoughts on this finale and this season as a whole. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If there's anything that you want to discuss that I haven't talked about, let me know. We can discuss it. And as always, leave a like and subscribe for more of the Blacklist. I will see you guys the next season. Peace out.